Yeah. Monastery tech only? Or likewise?
Tech, yeah. And no, sorry.
Cancel. Library wireless.
Yeah.
Those two. Recast.
Okay,
Connected. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it? I can't see behind me.
Connected.
Huh?
It says waiting.
Yeah, just say waiting.
It says connected. What? Connected to Recast.
Connection in progress. In a moment. Very good.
Yay! Excellent. So, what page were we on? Should we start at the beginning?
The three characteristics.
Matter doctrine, I think we've been through that one. Karma? Nah, I don't like karma. Wrong view? Nah.
After this.
5 basic feathers? Nah. Using discussion about the soul? Nah. Wise contemplations? Nah. Street winner? Nah. Ñāṇatiloka Mahāthera did that one last week. You're close. 5 more speculative views.
Yes.
Excellent. I agree with you. Is anyone missing who should be here but is not here? No? Okay. Off we go. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namasāmi. Okay, so we are still on the word of the Buddha, of the 4 Noble Truths. This is the 4th Noble Truth. And of the 4th Noble Truth, which is the Eightfold Path, this is the first factor of the Eightfold Path, right view. And this is the last part of right view, called Free from All Speculative Views. It's a nice translation. Speculative views means maybe it is, maybe it's not. We're not really sure. And of course, the real views we find out at the moment is like from experience, without the hindrances distorting your views, perceptions, and conceptions. There it says, Majjhima 72. Then does the Buddha hold any speculative belief at all? Speculative belief is something that the Buddha has put away, for the Buddha has seen this. Such is form, stuff, especially body, such is origin, such is disappearance, such is experience, is Vedana, such is origin, where experience comes from, such is disappearance, such is perception, such is origin, such is disappearance, such is will, such is origin, such is disappearance, and such are consciousnesses. Such their origin, such their disappearance. So instead of speculative views, something which is quite obvious, you can see for yourself. It's not something which is a long distance from you, such as the nature of the origin of the universe, or something, but something which is right here. And especially what it is, what its origin, disappearance is. In other words, its causality. Therefore I say, with the destruction, fading away, cessation, giving up, and relinquishing, not of form, not of experience, perception, will, or consciousnesses, but with the relinquishing, the fading away, the giving up of all conceptual proliferations. It's a nice word. Who knows what the Pali word for that is? Quite a well-known word. Papancha, yeah. So papancha, it's a beautiful word. It means this conceptual proliferation. You can take something very simple and make it very complicated. And of course people do that. In Pali it's called Abhidhamma. Well, I don't mind saying that because there's a lot of truth in that. You make something very simple and make it so complex. And let's do it. Okay. So with the relinquishing of all the destruction, fading away, cessation, giving up and relinquishing of all conceptual proliferations, I like that, giving up, relinquishing. You're not interested anymore. Just give it up. Of all philosophizing, because philosophers like to see the finer points of the nature of life. Remember that great simile, if you're shot with a gun, and the bullet's inside of you, you don't go philosophizing. What is life about anyway? What's wrong with dying? You know, what is it with a bullet? What actually is a bullet? What is its nature? You just go and get the doctor as soon as possible. So, all philosophizing, all I-making, and mind-making. And that's another nice concept, that we actually make this sense of who we are. We construct it. A lot of times, who do you want to be? You actually make that being. And mind-making. What do you own? Is it really your hut? Your seat? Your room in Jhana Grove? Is that really yours? If it is, then when somebody disturbs it, it's very angry. But if it's not mine, it's very easy being senior monk here, because I go into my cave, I don't know what's gone. People go in there all the time. It's not really mine at all, is it? I don't mind. All mind-making and the underlying tendency to assuming a permanent essence. It's a really nice translation there. The underlying tendency to assume there is something which is you, which is permanent, which is going to be there for a long time. It's an underlying tendency because it's been brainwashed into us, habituated, the sense of an I from our culture. The Buddha is liberated through exhausting the fuel that drives rebirth. I like that. You don't sort of stop rebirth. You don't sort of say, I don't want to be reborn anymore. You see the fuel, what actually gives rise to it in the future. And that's all exhausted. You run out of fuel, so nothing to get reborn again. The three characteristics. Whether Buddhas arise or not, there persists that law, that stable Dhamma, that fixed course of the Dhamma. All phenomena that arise from a cause are impermanent, suffering, and not a permanent essence. So all things which arise from a cause, obviously bodies, obviously wisdom, arise from a cause because you listen to what I'm saying. All that which rises from a cause is suffering. It disappears. What about deep meditation, jhana? Does jhana arise from a cause? Of course it does. It's suffering. Stream winning? Does stream winning arise from a cause? What are the two main causes for being a stream winner? Remember I said it's the words of the other, of another, and go, but yeah, yoni samadhi sikara. Those are two causes. Arise from a cause, it's suffering. So what do you want to be a stream winner for? It's much less suffering, number one, and you're on the way out of suffering. So it's lessening suffering. So all these causes. So where does suffering end then? Everything which arises from a cause is suffering. So where can there be an end of suffering? When nothing arises anymore. When something ceases and nothing arises anymore. What's that called? Parinibbana. A Buddha awakens to this and breaks through to it, and then explains it, teaches it, proclaims it, establishes it, discloses it, analyzes it, and elucidates it. Because it's hard for people to accept. So you have to break through to it and then explain, teach, proclaim, establish, disclose, analyze it, and elucidate it. And what is it that the wise in the world agree upon as not existing? And which I too say that does not exist. What doesn't exist? Form that is permanent, stable and eternal, not subject to change. This, the wise in the world agree upon as not existing. And I too say that it does not exist. What about, we always saw like an atom would always exist. And then Rutherford, he broke the atom and showed the atom is not a permanent essence, it's unstable. But then we have fundamental particles like Higgs bosons. Are they stable? No, they too only last a certain time. And then they break up. They've got what's called like a half-life, which means in that time they've got a 50% chance of disintegrating into something else. There's nothing in this world, form-wise, which is permanent. And that's physics. Science. Fade, experience, Vedana. Have you got any experience which is always going to be there? Sometimes people think they are suffering, and it doesn't end. Always remember, it doesn't matter how painful it is, it has to end. Or get worse. It can't stay the same. And actually, usually it's wonderful that happens. If you're really sick, you know that when it disappears, you're happy. So you just wait for a while and you have a wonderful time. Experience. Perception is not permanent, not stable, not eternal. You don't have one perception. Will. Keep your will going. Focus. Focus. Keep going. You can't do that, can you? Sometimes when I used to try those meditations where you just watch your breath, I thought, okay, right. I'm going to watch my breath no matter what. And even with all the training in the world, you couldn't do it. Because your will is not permanent. It's not stable. And sometimes people who do it, have trained themselves, like Olympic athletes and stuff. They can do so much, but eventually they have to give up their will. It's unstable. And consciousnesses. I've only got one consciousness there. I should change that. Any consciousness, that's okay. That is permanent, stable and eternal, not subject to change. This the wise in the world agree upon as not existing. And I too say that it does not exist. Even the word vijnana. V means like the same word as bi, like bicycle, bifocals. It always means a two there. Jnana is like seeing, knowing. You always have to have two in vijnana. It cannot be stable. And if you just knew one thing, really knew one thing, eventually it has to disappear. Because your brain, your mind as well, which is different than the brain, can only know changing things. Something which is always there, you can't be conscious of. It doesn't exist. Okay. Consciousness that is permanent, stable, eternal, not subject to change, this the wise in the world agree upon as not existing. And I too say that it does not exist, says the Buddha. And you can see that I'm really pushing a point here, but this is what the Buddha said. It is impossible and inconceivable, this is from the Ñāṇatiloka Nikaya, that a person who is enlightened or on the path to enlightenment, even one who's on the path to being a stream winner, that includes all those, it is impossible and inconceivable that a person who is enlightened or on the path to enlightenment could consider any phenomena that arises from a cause as permanent, as pleasurable, and as a soul. There is no such possibility. So if a person does consider something arises from a cause as permanent, pleasurable, and as a soul, they're not even on the path to being enlightened. But it is possible that an unenlightened worldling might consider some phenomena that arise from a cause as permanent, as pleasurable, and as a soul. There is such a possibility. Therefore, any kind of form whatsoever, any kind of experience whatsoever, any kind of perception whatsoever, any kind of will whatsoever, any kind of consciousness whatsoever, whether past, future, or present, one's own or others, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all form, experience, perception, will, consciousnesses, should be seen as it really is with correct wisdom thus. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not a permanent essence. It's very powerful, very simple, but great teaching. It's not mine. Not your business. Please let it go. It's not who you are. It's not your permanent essence. Even just that sentence, that gets you into such deep stillness and peace. Got nothing to worry about. And instead you have this saying, this is from Visuddhimagga, it's not from the word of the Buddha. I must admit this, that's why I put the quote in there, Visuddhimagga. But still it's a very powerful statement. One of my favourites. Mere suffering exists. No sufferer is found. Yay! So you're not suffering. You're in pain. You're fed up. You're aching. Suffering is, but not the sufferer. The deed is, but no doer of the deed is there. What did you do today? How many of you were late, were heedless, didn't clean the toilet bowl or something? Yeah, that happened, but I didn't do it. I was in there, my body did. The deed is, but not the doer. Nibbana is, these are two I really like. Nibbana is, but not a person who enters it. That's where you get the Ajahn Brahm can't enter jhanas. Can't do it, I have to disappear. So Ajahn Sangharatna can't get Nibbana. You can't enter it. Sorry. You disappear first and then Nibbana is. And lastly, the path is, but no traveller on it is seen. And that's I've been giving talks about that, really nice talks. The Eightfold Path. It's so narrow. It's like just walking on a tightrope made of cotton thread. If you are there, if there's a self trying to walk the path, you're trying to get somewhere and achieve something. If you're a traveller, the path is just almost impossible. But if you're not travelling anywhere, you're not trying to get somewhere or escape from something, you're not going anywhere. Instead, no traveller, then the path is as wide as a superhighway. 8 lanes wide. The Eightfold Path. Huge, you can't miss it. If you're not travelling. Don't be a traveller. And then the path is easy. That's why I love that saying. Wow, that's really good stuff. Okay, anyway, any questions on that so far? Yeah?
Bhante, where it talks about the impossible and the inconceivable,
Oh yeah.
it says here, impossible and inconceivable that a person is enlightened or on the path to enlightenment are equivalent, who consider any phenomena that arises from causes permanent as pleasurable and as a soul, there is no such possibility. But something can be pleasurable and then unpleasurable. Well, then
Yeah, but what it means by pleasurable, it's just pleasurable. In other words, going to heaven. In heaven it's just pure pleasure at last. Union with God. Oh, it's so nice. I don't know if any of you have ever looked at the Bible. They have sayings like, God is angry every day. I would like to hang out with someone who's angry every day. So it's really pleasurable.
is this pleasure permanent pleasure?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, just pleasure, nothing else. And the thing is, you can't have just pleasure. Even one day if it's more pleasurable than yesterday's pleasure, of course, you know, that's called suffering, when it's less pleasurable. And you see that, you know, sometimes you get, look at the food we eat these days. If it's not quite as good as it was yesterday, if the mashed potatoes is not quite as creamy or whatever, bleh, it's called suffering. But honestly, just when I was a young monk in Thailand eating frogs and sticky rice, you know, any type of mashed potato would be, oh, this is amazing. So in other words, less pleasure is called suffering.
Ajahn, can I just ask a question?
Yeah?
The 5 khandhas, they're just disjointed.
Not really.
Just happening, which gives, because of the illusion of the self.
Oh, you're talking about just 5 khandha experience, the next 5 khandha experience. The 5 khandhas are always connected together amongst themselves. So you can't have consciousness without something to be conscious of. So you always have them occurring sort of in groups together. But then, just as they go on because they are caused. What are the causes of the 5 khandhas? You'll see that in a few moments when we go down to dependent origination. So they're disjointed. Not really, there's a cause to them, a causal process. You don't make them go this way or that way, because they've got their own internal causes. So that's coming up soon. Okay, let's go on. Where were we? Where's suffering exists? Oh yeah. It is those who do not understand form as it really is, what this body, what stuff is, who do not know and see its origin, its cessation, and the way leading to its cessation. Those are the people who think an enlightened one exists after death or does not exist after death, or both exists and does not exist after death, or neither exists nor or neither exists nor does not exist after death. It is those who do not see and experience. It is those who do not know and see experience as it really is, the Vedana, who do not know and see perception, sanya, as it really is, who do not know and see will as it really is, who do not know and see consciousnesses as they really are, who do not know and see the origin of each consciousness. Including the mind consciousness begins and it stops, from moment to moment. It does not see their cessation, the way leading to their cessation, that think an enlightened one exists after death, or does not exist after death, or both exists and does not exist after death, or neither exists nor does not exist after death. Huh? Oh, both exist. Okay. But one who knows and sees form, experience, perception, will, consciousness as they really are, just an empty process, who know and see their origin, their cessation, and the way leading to the cessation, does not think an enlightened one exists after death, or does not exist after death, or both exist and doesn't exist after death, or neither exists nor does not exist after death. And this is the Yamaka Sutta, this is so clear. What do you think, Yamaka? Asks Sariputta. Do you regard the body, experience, perception, will, or consciousnesses as an enlightened one? No, Venerable. Do you regard an enlightened one as within the body, or as within experience, or as within perception, within will, or as within consciousnesses? No, Venerable. Do you regard an enlightened one as separate from the body, as separate from experience, as separate from perception, as separate from will, or as separate from consciousnesses? No, Venerable. Do you regard the body, experience, perception, will, and consciousness taken together as an enlightened one? No, Venerable. Do you take an enlightened one as one who is without form, without experience, without perception, without will, and without consciousnesses? No, Venerable. But Yamaka, when an enlightened one is not apprehended, not understood or seen by you as real and actual in this very life, and you're sitting in front of an enlightened one himself, Sariputta. But Yamaka, when an enlightened one is not apprehended by you as real and actual here in this very life, is it fitting for you to declare that an enlightened one is annihilated and perishes with the breakup of the body and does not exist after death? If Yamaka, they were to ask you, what happens to an enlightened one with the breakup of the body after death, how would you answer? An arahat, when they pass away, how would you answer? What happens to them? I would answer that the body is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering has ceased and passed away. Experience is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering has ceased and passed away. Perception is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering has ceased and passed away. Will is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering has ceased and passed away. Consciousnesses are impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering has ceased and passed away. Good, Yamaka, good. You can't really get away with actually saying that there's nothing really there, just this process, the five khandhas. Arises and passes away. If there is the view, the permanent essence and the body, the soul and the body, if you like, are the same. I've mentioned this already. There is no living of the holy life. If there is the view, the permanent essence is one thing, the body is another. There is no living of the holy life. Without veering towards either of these extremes, the Buddha teaches the Dhamma by the middle, dependent origination and dependent cessation. The permanent essence is not the body is not the permanent essence. There's something else, the third way, the middle way. Not there is something, no, there is nothing. This empty process. One who sees dependent origination and cessation sees the Dhamma. One who sees the Dhamma sees dependent origination and cessation. For those of you who want to be a stream winner, forget it. If you want to understand what stream winning is, you should see this is just a process. Nothing who becomes a stream winner. It's not a personal attainment. Just understanding the Dhamma. There's no one here. The one who sees the Dhamma sees dependent origination. The one who sees dependent origination sees the Dhamma. And here we go. Dependent origination. With delusion as a cause, will comes to be. The delusion, don't call that ignorance, because ignorance is what you get rid of at school. You go to school, university, study as much as you like, we still get deluded. Remember how the Buddha taught it? Looking at form, like a froth on the river, as something solid, and weight in like a plop of a raindrop on some water. Nothing substantial there. It just arises and passes away so quickly. And perception as a mirage. Will. What was will? As the banana tree, it's got no pith in it. And consciousness is as a magician's trick. It's delusory. So with delusion as a cause, you want to do something. Will happens. Or if you want to call it, volitional formations. But will is actually much more powerful. With will as a cause, consciousnesses happen. With consciousness as a cause, there's something to be conscious of. Name and form, the objects of consciousness. With name and form, the cause, the six sense bases, sensory contact. The sensory contact as cause is experience. These are not one thing leads to another thing, that with one of these you have to have the others. So whenever there is a moment of consciousness, there has to be the objects of consciousness. You have to have the six sense bases to make consciousness possible, the sensory contact, and you have experience. With experience as a cause, wanting. With wanting as a cause, fuel. With fuel as a cause, states of existence. When there's some place, states of existence to get reborn into, then you get reborn. And with rebirth as a cause, aging and death, sorrow, crying, instead of lamentation. No one uses that word anymore in English, you just call it crying. Aging and death, sorrow, crying, pain, unhappiness and distress come to be. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. Now sometimes people stop there, but you can't really understand dependent origination without considering dependent cessation. I'll do this first of all and then to the questions. And this is again with Sudi Magga, but it's legitimate. No God, no Brahma can be called the maker of life. Empty phenomena roll on, dependent on conditions all. Another phrase, the empty phenomena roll on, this process. Like thinking about process P, but not P there. No, this little P here causes the next P. Or the other simile, which, it's really hard to find similes for this, I must admit. But the simile which I did was a mango. I know that because I had a beautiful mango yesterday, and this morning at breakfast is a sour mango. That's the nature of mangoes. But anyway, suppose you get that delicious mango, and then you take the seed from that mango, and you plant it. And of course, you know, good conditions, that mango will grow. How does it grow? You know, it just dries out there in a bit of the soil, but then the seed splits, a little green shoot comes up and goes higher and higher and higher, and then that green shoot pops through the soil on the top, and it becomes a little piece of grass, and then it goes bigger as the kangaroos don't eat it, becomes a little twig, and then that twig becomes a tree, and the tree just push all its branches out, and the branches get bigger and bigger, the tree gets bigger and bigger, and eventually you get all these leaves on it, and it gets bigger and bigger, and then you get these little flowers come out from the edges of the branches, and then those little flowers, they get pollinated, and the base of the flowers swell, and the little bud of a new mango comes, and it swells and swells and swells and swells, and then you ask an anagaricus, you should know. I can't actually say, go and get one for me. You just have to use this weird language. And you pluck that mango, and you give it to me. What went across from the first mango to the second mango? No soul. Mangoes don't have souls. What went across is the cause and effect all the way along. And you can even see what's in the new mango. There's probably nothing at all was in the new mango, was in the old mango. Everything has just been recycled many times. So much of that you can actually see as a process. One mango leading to another mango. Because if the first one was sweet, there's a good chance the second one will be sweet. Something sort of goes across, in a sense, karma, tendencies. But they also disappear after a long while. So, but when a meditator has abandoned delusion and aroused true knowledge, then with the fading away of delusion and the arising of true knowledge, one does not generate a meritorious volition, or a demeritorious volition, or a neutral volition. The will is changed and stopped. Okay, so here we go, dependent cessation. With the remainderless fading away and cessation of delusion comes a cessation of will. Imagine what it's like not to will anything. Let's put it another way, not to want anything in the whole world. No will, no wanting. What happens next? The cessation of will, cessation of consciousnesses. You don't will anything, you become very still. You don't move. Nothing to make you move. Which means the brain starts to turn off. Then the mind starts to turn off. So with the cessation of consciousnesses, cessation of objects of consciousness, cessation of name and form, objects of consciousness, cessation of the six sense bases. Cessation of the six sense bases, cessation of sensory contact. The cessation of sensory contact, cessation of experience. All experience. Cessation of experience, cessation of wanting. Cessation of wanting, cessation of fuel. Cessation of fuel, cessation of states of existence. Cessation of states of existence, cessation of rebirth. Cessation of rebirth, aging, death, sorrow, crying, pain, unhappiness and distress cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. House builder, you have now been seen. You shall build no more houses again. Your rafters have been broken, your gables all torn, your electrical works have all been torn out, they haven't passed. There's a few electricians here. Thrown off course, the citta, the mind, will be destroyed right here. And I put the Pali in there because sometimes you always have to sort of be quite clear what's being destroyed. This process, the citta, the mind, that which some people still claim, no, that can't be destroyed, that's permanent, that's original, that's destroyed, stops. Without any doubt, this is from the Theravada, without any doubt, mind, you shall be destroyed. Powerful statement. What? That's the thing. Who are you supposed to believe you are? No, you'll be destroyed. Ended, finished, done with. How does it work? You don't want anything. You don't create anything. Your mind stops. That's why sometimes I say that when I try and give it as many similitudes as possibly could. When the body finishes, what do you want? If you can actually learn not to want anything in the whole world, not to want, be still, really still, without any wanting at all. When you die, it's like there's nothing to get you going again. You're finished with samsara. If you want anything, even the slightest thing, and then you get reborn. Just like when you meditate. Sometimes you get nice nimittas, You want something. This is a lot of training when you sit down to meditate, to learn how to abandon all wanting. Not craving, craving is too coarse. All wanting. Sit here and just not want anything. Really still. Okay, now the questions. Okay.
What's the difference between wanting and fuel? What's the fuel that's different?
Okay, the wanting is like creating the fuel. It's the wanting which, what do you want? You find out in your life you actually create circumstances, situations, rooms. Have a look at your room where you're staying for this raise retreat. What's in there? And sometimes we just change our little rooms, little ways, and we want it to be like that. And the wanting gives you work to be done. It creates things. If you didn't want anything in the whole universe, you would create nothing. You create not just your physical environment, but also your mental environment, even your health. The wanting is just very powerful. Even wanting to be healthy. Do you really want to be healthy? Why do people get sick? So, one of the first years, a whole year when I was in Thailand, I made a stupid resolution. And a stupid resolution, I said, for 1 year I'm not going to get sick. I made that resolution. And the weird thing was, it worked. In the morning, the food was disgusting, really dirty. And so in the morning, we'd get up and all the other monks said, yeah, I was on the can all night. I just hardly got any sleep, I had diarrhea and terrible stuff. They went down the line. How about you? You, yes, yeah, I did as well. When it came to me, I didn't. I felt really arrogant. But it was almost like an experiment. And I was very healthy that year. Later on I got diarrhea and dysenteries and stuff. But for that 12 months when I made that resolution, I was ridiculously healthy. Why? I did have a strong mind, for true, but sometimes, do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be sick? Sometimes people do make themselves sick. Do you ask any doctor? They call it psychosomatic sometimes, but what's the difference? Why is it you have cancers and then they disappear again? Something weird going on. The interaction between the mind and the body. So anyway, why is that Anita Murjani? I remember her name now. And why is it that she had these terrible cancers, was dying? And when she came back from a near-death experience, she said, I don't need to please anybody anymore. Because all her wanting was coming to make other people happy. Was coming because she thought she had to make other people happy. She had to live up to other people's expectations. Somebody mentioned that the other day, and please, each one of you, doesn't matter whether you're a senior monk like Ajahn Sangharatna or a junior monk or junior novices, please don't try and please other people. I'm going to be the really good novice and try and just please others. Relax. You're more than good enough. You get into line naturally. You don't have to force yourself and feel that, I better not let people into my hut. What will Ajahn Brahm see if he came into my hut? What would he see if he came into your mind? So don't try and please other people. It's another form of wanting. When you let go of the wanting, well, you're not creating stuff. You're very peaceful.
In a lot of respects, that's how we were brought up in this area.
Not by me. It is true, isn't it? And some of you, you're in a monastery, especially, you're sitting in the line. Oh, I better not do this, I better not do that. And
It's from the past.
Yeah, the more you try to be the perfect anagarika, the more suffering you have and the less perfect you are. You cause trouble for yourself and others. The more you relax, you're not afraid, then people see that and think, wow, that's really weird and rare. And they get faith in the Dhamma. So you don't inspire people by the way you dress, or the way that you sort of are never late. Sometimes you are late. Welcome to life. So little by little, you understand another way of expressing the Dhamma in the world. I've seen so many monks in the past who, wow, they always dress perfectly. And they always, that story, this one monk, I've got his bowl now, because when he disrobed, he gave me his alms bowl. And he was like a perfect monk. He was French, he never talked to anybody. And whenever he was meditating, I never ever saw him nod. Perfect posture, sit for hours, quietly, didn't eat too much, didn't cause any problem whatsoever. And then he disrobed. Why on earth? And because he was a friend, he told me. He said sometimes he said he would open his eyes when he was meditating and see me just so, almost hitting the floor with my head, fast asleep. And he was jealous. I wish I could do that. Wish I could let go that much. He was so concerned with trying to please others. He was torturing himself for 3 years, and I thought, why on earth did you do that? That must have been terrible. He never had any good samadhi, which is torture all the time, trying to hold himself in that position. And that really taught me a lesson. I'd be much happier to be sleepy, and I was not on torpor at that time, than to be just so fierce on my body. I'm going to try and impress others. Don't do that.
And there's that conceit.
Oh yeah,
Form of conceit.
yeah. I'm really concerned what other people think of me. So I better not be sleepy. So not in public. So not when it's being filmed. Ah! I better not sort of put my finger in my ear. You got that on camera now. So you can see how tense that makes people feel. So see if you can actually let go of wanting and be peaceful. It's much better. Try it.
Because you've got decades of experience, did your perception of how to get on the path change over the years? Do you now believe that it's better to be more relaxed?
Yep, yes.
Go,
Certainly.
get the eye out of the way?
Certainly, yeah. And even though all the teachers were saying the same thing, especially someone like Ajahn Chah, sit still, let go. Of course, you always had that, what you said, the old conditioning of thinking you have to strive. You have to work hard. And otherwise you're being lazy. But I still remember that encounter between the Buddha and his first 5 disciples. Once he started meditating on jhanas, eating properly, looking after his body, they thought he was a slacker. They'd given up the striving. And they just left him alone, just abandoned him. If he can't get enlightened just with all that striving, how's he going to get enlightened now? He said he discovered the path, the middle way. It's not indulging, it's not watching TVs and ordering the anagarikas to come and bring me some food because I'm hungry this evening. No, it's just, it's the middle way. And you know it's the middle way because you feel comfortable, peaceful, but it's not sort of getting sick, and it's got energy. So that's one of the reasons why one of the things which I did see early on, Ajahn Chah would always make sure, especially when you were sick, you had enough food. I don't think he really realised that we didn't sort of like frog soup. I think later on he realised, maybe he made a mistake there. Should have got us better food. But nevertheless, In those early days, you would try and be very harsh on yourself. Never worked. Just actually gave you lots of good stories you can tell people. That's about what it could do. Okay. So then, now we come to right motivation, the second factor of the Eightfold Path. Now, straight away, that I don't think there's anybody else who translates samma sankappa as motivation. Well, I do, and it makes it much more alive. Sometimes they call it right thought. Oh, what are you saying that for? Because that almost like justifies and gives validity to thinking. And you all know that most of you have been taught to think too much and encouraged to think. Where does that leave you, honestly? I'm not saying don't think, leave your brain outside the monastery, but we think too much. Anyway, this is not what the Buddha meant here. I've got my notes on this. Sankappa. The usage of sankappa in other places may mean forward planning. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And, however, its definition in the context of the Noble Eightfold Path clearly points to where the plans were coming from, not where they're going to, where they're coming from. Later on, it says where they're going to, but here, from right view, where you're coming from. When you're meditating, when you are working, when you are sitting, or whatever you're doing. In other words, the motivation. There's two different meanings, motivation and intention. And I learned this from the Vinaya, and it's the same with law. The legal, what's your motivation? Why are you doing that? Well, you have from hatred or from lust or from stupidity. Your intention is, where do you want to go with this? You're trying to kill somebody or marry them or sort of become rich. That's where you're going to. This means where you're coming from, your motivation. In the Vinaya as well as in modern legal systems, a distinction is made between motive, where the act was coming from, and the intention, where the act was going to, the goal. The definition of samma sankappa clearly relates to the motive, coming from renunciation, that's nekama, means letting go. Kindness, avyapada. Avyapada is non-hatred, but it's used as a synonym in Pali for metta, it's opposite. Kindness and ahimsaka. And everybody should know ahimsaka, or it's actually vihimsaka, same meaning, from Mahatma Gandhi. Ahimsa means gentleness, non-violence. Non-violence. So the idea of a Zen monk coming behind you and whacking you on the back with a stick, there's something wrong about that. Or there's forcing you. Sit still. Stop moving. That's a violence there. That's not gentleness. And you find it doesn't work. Or telling a person, you're eating too much, you're not eating enough. Don't talk too much. Don't do this, don't do that. It's not just that I'm a softy teacher. There's a reason behind that. And that is because it's a gentleness, a gentle approach. And I think you can see how powerfully that works. Lots of people feel comfortable in this monastery. They feel safe in this monastery. Men, women, and even kids. They feel welcome here. So when you come into your meditation, you feel welcome. Welcome, mind. And all those little similes. The kid who had a trauma, breakup with his mother. Mum, I don't love you anymore, I'm leaving home. And the mother could have whacked him one. Is that Buddhist? No. The mother helped him pack his bags. 6-year-old. Happened here. 6-year-old left home for the first time. Mother packed his bags for him, gave him a little brown paper bag with his favourite sandwich inside, and they kissed him at the door. Well, have a lovely life, son. Have a good time. Send him off with love. And of course, you know what's going to happen. If you send him off with fear or really more ill will, of course he would go much further away. With so much love, his favourite sandwich in his bag, he just went round the corner and came back again. He was homesick so quickly. Now that's a sort of emotional wisdom, or emotional intelligence with kindness. It's much more powerful. So, little by little, that emotional kindness is, this is part of Sammasankappa. Renunciation, and again, that letting go of stuff, not amassing more stuff, not being a great victor, but being a great loser. Get lost.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I'll pack your bags for you and give you your favourite sandwich before you go.
I'll see how to go. My favourite sandwich.
So this makes the Noble Eightfold Path more meaningful. Right view is the cause for the motivation of letting go. When you see there's no self in there, no one in there, it makes it much easier to renounce, to be kind and to be gentle. The more of a self is in there, the more of an ego, the more of a control freak, and there's more violence, and then eventually hatred and wanting. It actually comes together. So that's actually why the right speech, right action, right livelihood they all motivated by renouncing kindness and gentleness. Or your speech, and how much you can let go, how much you can be kind, how much you can be gentle. So try not to shout at each other, don't criticize one another, be kind to one another, praise one another if you think it's going to help them. So anyway, what now is right motivation? In full. Actions of body, speech and mind arising from a motive of renunciation, from a motive of kindness, or arising from a motive of gentleness. This is called right motivation. That's what it says. What is wrong motivations? Motivations of desire concerning the world of the five senses, of aversion and of cruelty. Oops. What about desire concerning the world of the sixth sense? That's exempted because that leads to jhanas. That leads out of samsara. So motivations of wanting. So this is against renunciation. Sometimes renunciation is a long word and people sometimes don't understand it. That's why sometimes I say make peace. Because peace means you don't want anything. You know, you try and want something, and there's always business to be done. It's not peaceful. Even wanting good things. I've got to really teach these anagarikas, just how to do things. Are you going to get any peace? So see if you can renounce. What your fellow anagarika does, that's their problem. But you cover for them. That's more the path. And what is the source of these wrong motivations? They arise from perceptions of desire concerning the world of the five senses, aversion of cruelty. Where do these wrong motivations cease without remainder? Aha! They cease in the first jhana. Because in the first jhana, there's no motivation. You're not doing anything, you don't want anything. Especially nothing, the five senses have gone. No ill will, no cruelty. That's what the Buddha says. What are the right motivations? Motivations of renunciation, kindness and gentleness. What is the source of the right motivations? they arise from perceptions of renunciation, kindness and gentleness. Where do these right motivations cease without remainder? They cease in the second jhana. Will is gone in the second jhana. You're not motivated anymore. All motivations are ceased. Only when you're in the second jhana, when you come out again, they start up again. No motivation at all. You're not doing anything there. And that's it for right motivation. It doesn't say very much, does it? Why should it? It's very clear and powerful. Just because it's not explained very much, the explanation is sufficient, but because it's not mentioned very much, people just pass over it too quickly. I've done that one. And I never like that to happen. I wanted to really focus on right motivation. That's one of the most powerful factors of the Eightfold Path. Most powerful factors of your meditation success. You look at your meditation and when it doesn't work, it goes wrong. Right motivation, you've been wrongly motivated. You want to get streaming. You want to be a soul one. You just want to show those other people, what this Buddhism really is. It's just all wrong motivation. Really, I've got my retreat now. I'm really going to go for it. I'm really going to go for it. Who's going to go for it? Well, it's my meditation. Whose meditation? Not me, not mine, and myself. What are you worrying about? Just relax and let go. Renounce. And be kind, be gentle. So easy. Yes? Oh, you got one over there.
Can you say more about why you pick peacefulness?
Okay.
Some of the old Ajahns in the library would say renunciation, you really needed to be tough and you had to have the Dhanga practices. So it'd be helpful if you could explain for us what.
Renunciation. Look, I know so many people that one of their practices was called a super Gamatan. They have all these pictures of dead bodies or skulls, and they spend a lot of time on just not the negative, the disgusting nature of the body. And many of those monks who were really into sort of disgusting nature of the body ended up disrobing and marrying another body. Honestly. I know a lot of people who did that. I won't say their names, but there's many of them. What on earth are you doing? Spend a whole lot, if you're a monk, discussing the nature of women. Please excuse me. And then they married one. What are you doing that for? In other words, it was not working for them. They misunderstood it. You don't do stuff like that. So that sort of toughness didn't penetrate anything. Just going in the wrong course. The gentleness, the kindness, the letting go of all this, trying to be somebody. So many of those practices were trying to be something. Be the perfect monk. Just be the perfect nun. Be the tough guy. I told you some of the stupid stuff I used to do. On the retreats we did over here. Sometimes I'd be sitting there in the evening. I'm a monk, okay, I'm a teacher. I'd sit there and I'd determine I'd always be the last person out of the meditation hall. And so you finish the chanting or whatever, and then you just start sitting. You hear most people go, and you open one eye, there's about a couple of people still sitting there, always the same ones, bloody. Come on, come out of here. So you close your eyes again, and you hear someone move up, yeah, and move up, and there's still one person sitting there. There was negativity started to come up. Who did they think they are? And so I'd wait for them to go. When they went, I'd just wait for another 5 minutes so they wouldn't see me. And then when I'd bow, and then I'd go back to my room. And I'd get up, when the bell went in the morning, and sit there. And that person who was, really late, they wouldn't get up in the morning. They'd only get up for breakfast time. That was not unfair. If you stay late, you should get up early. And that's a sort of stupidity which you notice when you try and be tough. Instead of trying to be tough, trying to be sort of kind. So now just you stay up late at night if your body really wants to. If it needs to go to bed, have a nice rest. You don't worry what other people think of you. So, crazy doing stuff like that. Yeah, I'll have the one and then you're next, yeah. Yes?
Ajahn, you said like the kindness is not like controlling people, like in terms of like the food they eat. In the past, like I've had people in this monastery like say if I take more food than others, making me feel guilty, or if I take less food than others, again making me feel guilty. Is there a right response for this when this kind of thing happens?
Yeah, you say, well, I'll ask Ajahn Brahm. And I'll say, you take as much as you want.
Or as less as
As less as you want, yeah, it's up to you. Don't bother about that. You know, honestly, I was so thin when I was a young monk that in Ajahn Mahathera's monastery, and he was very strict, he was one of the toughest of those monks. And anyway, they had this rule there, only you had to 1 meal a day. So when he started, you had to wait till he started actually eating, didn't know bells. You watch him, and once he put some food in his mouth, then you could. When he finished, everyone else had to finish. So everyone there learned how to eat really fast. To get as much food in their stomach before he stopped. They're really tense. And so the first day I was there, I was told what the rule was, I knew about it, so when he put his spoon down, I put my spoon down too, as well. I stopped eating. And he looked at me and he said, Brahm Wangsu, carry on eating. He told me to carry on eating. And I was very obedient. And I did. I think some of the other monks were really jealous. Well, that's how thin I was, but there was some kindness there as well. So that's what you could do. Just don't listen to other monks, because they're trying to do the very best for you. But sometimes the junior monks or the Anagarikas, they're trying their best, but they're not that wise yet. So follow the boss. So Ajahn Brahm told me to do this. Okay, Robin?
I wish I'd asked that question, because someone once yelled at me for taking the scraps of the bottom of the pizza box when there was like 5 or 6 pieces of pizza left and I took crumbs off the edge.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes, that when people criticise you, it's because they're in a bad mood. Or sometimes, they're criticising themselves. They're not happy, they don't want other people to be happy. So, happiness and contentment, peace, challenges them. Don't like that. But it's fortunate, you're in a monastery now, I'm the senior monk, I'm really senior. Now, old, if you want to call it that. And so people will not challenge me here. So it's a nice position to be in. Other monks might visit and they might disagree, oh, you shouldn't do it this way. But because I'm senior, they never tell me.
Tell somebody else though.
Yeah, but they need to come and tell me, yes, I don't care. This is what it's done here. Kindness rules.
That wasn't the question.
Yeah, okay.
In the section where you were saying the source of either the wrong or right motivations,
Oh, yeah.
you said perceptions of desire.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever else. Why perceptions of and not the desires?
No worries. Okay, there arise from perception of desires concerning the world of the 5 senses, aversion and cruelty. Because remember what I was saying, I think it was in the Wednesday night talk, about the 3 vipalasas. Distortions of cognitive processes. View, perception, thought. Not one starts one, because once you have a wrong view, stupid view, that means you're going to have a stupid perception. That means you're going to have a stupid thought, which is going to reinforce the stupid views, and it goes round in circles. So he said the perception of desire concerning the world of the 5 senses, that's all wrong motivations, because the motivations, where you're coming from, okay, conceptions, thoughts, from the perception, that starts the thinking process. Wrong perceptions, wrong motivations. You can say thoughts, you can say views, because where there's perception, that creates these thoughts, a movement of the mind, and the movement of the mind reinforces the views. And the views distort your perceptions. You perceive what you want to perceive. You block out what you don't like perceiving.
And it's the hindrances.
Yeah, the hindrances, yeah, they stop you actually seeing the truth. They bend the truth. Still a thing to know that. Sometimes you just, do I trust myself? You know, what I speak, what I see, how I behave. Am I sure that's right? So the only way to overcome that doubt about truth is you get in these deep meditations. Hindrances are gone. And there's so much clarity there. And then of course you don't distort things. This is true. So that's why the practice of the meditation, abandoning the 5 hindrances, seeing the truth, in short. Yes?
Ajahn, what's the significance of wrong motivations and right motivations ceasing without remainder? Okay.
And I don't know why they put without remainder there, but I translate it as it's written down there. It's only because that in those jhanas there's no motivation left. Not even the slightest bit, not even a smidgen left. But it arises again afterwards. Yes?
What's the difference between Sankappa and Sanchetana?
Sanchetana is like will, usually.
Because if this is motivation.
Motivation, yes, Sankappa. Sanchetana is usually will.
Is will.
Yeah. It's a broader concept. Okay. Yeah?
And I was just thinking with renunciation, is it just a matter of where we're looking for happiness? If we're looking for happiness outside or looking for happiness?
No, it's more like letting go of your sense of self.
Yeah. Oh.
Renouncing me. Renouncing Ajahn. Being free. Finding an Asarana from the Sarana. Okay. Now, we can carry on with right speech, or we can go back to our rooms. Which one do you want? You happy to continue? You fed up? You want to renounce the talk? Okay, I'll do a bit more right speech, because right speech is important. This actually takes it down from something really powerfully deep to something which is important to have harmony in this monastery, or wherever you go. What now is right speech? Right speech is refraining from lying, from malicious gossip, from harsh speech, and from useless chatter. You probably all know that, but now let's go into it in deep. Abstaining from lying. You abandon lying and abstain from false speech. If you're asked to tell what you know, then you tell only what you do know, as accurately as you can. So you do not intentionally speak a lie or deceive for your own benefit or for the sake of another or for some other reason. When to be a deliberate lie, this is from the Vinaya, it says Parajika 4. To be a deliberate lie, you must be mindful before speaking. I am going to speak falsely. While speaking, you're aware, I'm telling a lie. And afterwards, you're aware that I have misrepresented the truth. So you do something rushed, and you made a mistake of speech. That's not a lie. It's being rushed. Or you're telling what you think is the truth, and it finds out later on it wasn't correct. That's not a lie. It has to be intentional, deliberate. And intentional, you know you've got what you're doing. And I love the way they say it over here, for the Parajikas. If you tell a lie about, your attainments, and if it's wrong, if it's a lie, then you have to disrobe. That's a really serious offense. That's one of the reasons why, it's so clear you have to know what you're doing. Second or beforehand, I'm going to lie. And then you go through with it. And then you're after, oh my goodness, I told a lie. Very clear. Rush speech, mistakes of speech, or jokes, they don't count as lies. And I know my Vinaya, so I can get away with all those stupid jokes. And, I didn't say it here, I think it might be somewhere else. For lying, the other thing about lying, which is musawada, is, I got this from Ajahn Chah, and I just really respect this. It's not in here because it's not actually part of this particular teaching, but it's valid that if you make a promise and you intend it, you don't intend to keep the promise, that is a lie. And if you're a monk or a novice, especially a monk, sorry, if you make a promise that yes, you will be there tomorrow morning, to help sort of Ajahn Brahm with his breakfast, if that is your promise, you think, I'm not going to be there, then that is the same as making a conscious lie. So it's even like promises, commitments. If you do make a commitment, sometimes things happen in the meantime. You sleep in, or you can't get there in time. And please let somebody know. But that's why when you make a commitment, it's serious. You have to really try and keep that commitment. Yes.
So, there are active lies that you're speaking of, but what about omission?
Omission. You don't speak. Yeah. In other words, does anyone know sort of where the buggy key is? Yeah. And then that is also in the Vinaya, it's a conscious lie, it said. That's why for those of you who come into the Patimokkha recitation, it's actually recited there. You can read it in there, that during the recitation we go through all the rules and we say, are you pure in this? Has anyone committed an offence here? And if you know you committed an offence but don't say anything, that is called sampajana musawada. You committed another offence. And the nice thing is, hopefully you all understand, if you do commit any offence, you're not sort of considered to be like a second-class monk or second-class novice. If you just do an offence, you make a mistake. There's no punishment in this monastery, no guilt, hopefully, that you make a mistake. You confess to somebody you trust, you try to do better next time. Finished. So, for example, suppose that, I don't know, what's a nice offence you can do? Like, you keep sort of a banana in your bag to eat in the evening, because you get hungry in the evening. You say, oh, Ajahn Brahm, I kept a banana in my bag. I'm not going to announce it to everybody. Hey, Venerable Sarato keeps bananas in his bag and eats them every evening. I'm not going to humiliate you like that. That doesn't help at all. That's not very kind. So I just say, personally, don't do that again. Eat more at lunchtime or do something else. And do it with kindness. It's much more effective. It also means you don't have to hide anything, which means you can always tell the truth. That's one of the reasons why, years ago, the little, not a little girl, she was about 17 or 18, came up to me to say she was in big trouble. What's the trouble? She said, I'm pregnant with my boyfriend. Like these little kids who come to monastery, they grow up with you. They come in when they're really small. And so, have you told your mum and dad? He said, no, that's why I came to see you. Can you please tell my mum and dad for me? That really shocked me. I said, why can't you tell your mum and dad? Because they'll kill me if they found out. And that really shocked me. Why can't kids tell their parents the truth? Because they're afraid. And in some of these big problems which they have, that's the time they need their parents the most. I give many talks on that afterwards. Please, if you are a parent, tell your children, look, it doesn't matter what you've done. I mean, literally, if you join the Islamic State and become a terrorist and blow up people, please let me know. We can get you a job in the demolition company, which I don't know. But it's much better that you know what's going on with your kids. And the only way you can know that is that they're not afraid of you. They're not going to sort of be terrified of the consequences. I don't agree with this, and it's a really difficult thing you've done, but I'm here to help. And that stops a lot of lying. People make mistakes in politics. Well, they always lie, because telling the truth will cost them their seat, and they get punished. So lying is overcome only when we have forgiveness and understanding we make mistakes.
Yeah, I can vouch for your kindness. When I was in Ñāṇatiloka, or just new as a novice monk, a lady wanted to complain. She was stirring things up, and I came and told you first. And you said, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're just trying to cause a bit of a stink." So no, they want me to be punished.
Yeah.
And I said, I had to learn from this. And you gave me the strokes of the cat.
Oh, yeah.
Go and find the cat and stroke it. And I said, well, that's not enough. Look, I've dealt with you. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
And they came and complained to you.
Yeah, and I think I gave them 100 strokes of the cat too. Find a nice cat or teddy bear and stroke it. And that's not just, so that's actually very powerful. That's some kindness, compassion. That makes the world a much better place. Abstaining from malicious gossip. You abandon malicious gossip and abstain from talk that causes division. Have you heard what those anagarikas are doing in their kitchen? Of course, people are really interested, aren't they, in gossip, especially if it's a bit nasty gossip, putting somebody down. What really happens in the women's quarters in the evening time. I hear lots of noise up there. I don't know what's going on. When it becomes something like that, people get interested. But you abstain from malicious gossip. You don't repeat it in order to divide people from one another. Instead, you are one who reunites those who are divided, a promoter of unity who enjoys, rejoices and delights in concord, a speaker of words that promote concord. Somebody does something wrong and just, they're in the wrong, but you don't spread it around. You keep quiet. Because you find it's not worth saying the bad things. Abstaining from harsh speech. Having abandoned harsh speech, you abstain from coarse speech. You only speak words that are gentle, pleasing to the ear and lovable, words that go to the heart and are courteous, desired by many and agreeable to many. So you don't call people fat pigs. I don't know why I bow down to you, Ajahn Brahm. Look how fat you are. You're just a pig. You don't use harsh speech. You always do kind speech. Anyway, I won't give any more examples of that. Because your speech can be very powerful. Especially in a monastery such as this. So be kind. People are trying their very best. You may not think so, but they are. And your job is to be kind to them. And they always get better when you be kind. Even if, this is one of those great sort of examples. Even if terrorists were to torture you. See, I didn't say like bad people, I'll put terrorists in here. Just change that word a little bit to make it a bit more alive and relevant to today. Even if terrorists were to torture you, such as by savagely cutting off your head with a sharp serrated knife. They have in the example there with a two-handed saw. Terrorists don't use two-handed saws anymore. No one would torture you that way. If you allowed hatred to develop in your mind towards them, then you would not be carrying out my teaching. Instead, you should train yourself thus. My mind will remain unaffected, and I shall speak no bad words. I shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness without inner hate. I shall abide pervading them with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with them, I shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, without ill will. That is how you should train. And for me, the meaning of that, some people have done that. I remember just reading about some of the Tibetan monks who were tortured in China. And, what they went through, but they said that they had to maintain their feelings of loving kindness, otherwise it would have hurt so much more. But that's actually, none of you will have stuff like that to endure. But when somebody just doesn't turn up at the right time to help with the washing up, please abide with a mind of loving kindness. My mind will remain unaffected. That's not that much torture, is it? Not like this. So whatever they do to you, please be kind. And abstaining from useless chatter. Having abandoned useless chatter, you abstain from unbeneficial talk. And sometimes people say, well, all that joking you talk about, Ajahn Brahm, all those bad jokes, is that useless chatter? And I say there's some benefit to that. The benefit of, just having friendship. And just teaching people you don't always have to be so serious and always sitting just so quietly. There's time. Actually, where we don't have seniority. I remember just, again, seeing that so many of the forest traditions, when it came to tea time, the monks would sit anywhere. It didn't matter who was senior and junior, so you could actually feel that these were your friends, your mates. And so that was a time when you could actually tell a few funny stories and jokes, especially if somebody was having a hard time, to cheer them up a little bit. You speak at the proper time, speak truth, speak what is beneficial, speak on the Dhamma and the discipline. At the proper time you speak words that are worth recording, reasonable, succinct and beneficial. But there are times when you have to criticize somebody. That's my job, not your job in this monastery. But anyway, sometimes you do that anyway. Before you criticize someone, you should be mindful with respect to 5 things and carefully establish 5 things before you criticize anybody, okay? Is my bodily behavior blameless? Do I possess bodily behavior that is pure, flawless and irreproachable? Does this quality exist in me or not? If it doesn't, you should shut up. So that stops many people criticizing others. Is my body behavior... if your bodily behavior is not beyond blame, there'll be those who say of you, please train your own bodily behavior first. Number 2, is my behavior of speech flawless or blameless? Do I possess behavior of speech that is pure, flawless and irreproachable? Does this quality exist in me or not? If your behavior of speech is not beyond blame, there'll be those who say of you, please train your own speech first. 3, have I established a mind of loving kindness without resentment to my associates? Does this quality exist in me or not? If you have not established a mind of loving kindness without resentment to your associates, there'll be those who say of you, please establish a mind of loving kindness without resentment to your associates first. 4, am I learned, and do I remember and understand correctly what I have learned? Have I learned about those teachings on Dhamma that are good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, which proclaim the perfectly complete and pure spiritual life? Have I remembered them accurately, investigated them thoroughly? Where's the next word? Well, thoroughly and understood them properly. Does this quality exist in me or not? If not, there will be those who say of you, please learn your own tradition first. 5, have both monastic codes of monks and nuns been well learned and understood by me? Does this quality exist in me or not? If not, there will be others who say of you, please learn the monastic rules first. So those are the 5 things before you criticize anybody. How many of you qualified to be able to criticize others? Have you learned all the Bhikkhuni rules yet? How many are there? Oh, is it? So please learn your own traditions first before you criticize others. And 5 other things you're supposed to do as well. You resolve to speak at an appropriate time, not an improper time. You resolve, actually, that needs to be amended there, because that's number 1. Number 2 is you resolve to speak truthfully, not falsely. But first of all, at an appropriate time, not an inappropriate time. You don't go around criticizing people in public. Like, that was Sagga. Whoa, you know what he's been up to. Whoa. That's an inappropriate time. Usually just take a person aside and say, listen, I know you're training, you're trying to do the right thing, but this is the right way to do it. An appropriate time, not an improper time. To resolve to speak truthfully, not falsely. So make sure you know what you're doing. Gently, not harshly. It's to speak in a beneficial way, not in a way that causes harm. That's why sometimes, just keep it silent, because it's not going to, it's such a small thing, it's not going to create any benefit, it's going to create harm. And lastly, you resolve to speak with a mind of loving kindness, not while harbouring ill will. If you've got any ill will, just go back and just sit, don't criticize anybody. So how many people pass those 10 things? So in the kitchen, be quiet, okay, you can't criticize anybody. In the bowl washing area, monks, you can't criticize anybody. Unless you know all those 10 things. Right speech. Speech is very powerful. If you know how to do it properly, it's going to be very beautiful, very helpful, and create harmony. Silence, though, is golden. Which is a good way to stop. Oh, is there any questions, first of all? Good, you realise silence is golden. Well done. Sadhu, 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 anumodami. Very good.
Just taking a microphone off you, Ajahn.
Really?
Yes, Ajahn.
I can't keep it. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.